Hello, good morning, MouseHunt. Welcome to Feedback Friday. It's June 30th, 2017. How's everybody in the chat doing today? Hello. I think I saw a Happy Canada Day. Yes, it's a long weekend here in Canada. But I thought I'd still pop on quick, say hello to everybody. A couple quick announcements. Maybe look for any feedback or questions in the chat. And then we'll kind of wrap things up. It'll be a little bit of a shorter Feedback Friday than normal. Hello back to everybody in the chat. Oh, hi, happy holidays, thank you, hello, hi. Ahoy, says Karen, ahoy, or ahoy hoy even. Well, a couple quick announcements to start things off, and then we'll look for feedback or questions from the chat, and we'll wrap things up here. One is that next week, the Bristol Woods Rift treasure maps, if all goes according to plan, knock on wood here, that's planned to be released. Probably Wednesday is the most likely day next week that the treasure map update will come. And as we spoke about on previous Feedback Fridays, and we got lots of feedback from the chat that kind of helped guide where we went with that, we also updated quite a bit about the Bristol Woods Rift as well. So there's a few updates to various chambers. You can kind of, if you remember from previous Feedback Fridays, you could watch one of the old Feedback Fridays to go into depth about the updates coming. But there is, primarily to the frozen alcove, we've lowered the loot to 35, as well as slightly increase the encounter rate of loot dropping mice. So the frozen alcove, you can loot it a little bit quicker, and that makes it a little bit easier to do and avoid getting the negative curse, which is the frozen portal. We also gave the benefit you get for the frozen alcove, made it a little bit more important and valuable, but not only does it protect against the acolyte pillaging, but now it'll also add bonus loot to the acolyte when you capture it. So it'll be kind of, you can think along the lines of Whisker Woods Rift bonus loot. It's kind of a big wide drop table. Varies quite a bit. It can be lowly little Rift Curd, I think is the absolute worst thing you can get. And the best thing that you could get is another time split rune. And if I recall correctly, the Quantum Pocket Watch will affect those loot drops as well. So you can get +1 drops if you have your Pocket Watch on. When you capture the acolyte with this new buff effect. What's the map? Question from the chat. There's actually going to be 2 maps that will be added next week. One is a Bristol Woods Rift map, and as you would expect, I think it's 15 mice, and as you'd expect, it's mice from the Bristol Woods Rift, and it leads to a treasure chest that has rewards related to the Bristol Woods Rift in it. The other scroll case that we're adding is a Rift Stalker scroll case, and that will span both the Feroma Rift as well as the Bristol Woods Rift. And that leads to a treasure chest with a little bit more varied rewards in it that span both Feroma and the Bristol Woods Rift. And that map, I believe, has 30 mice on it. It's a longer map. Any retroactive bonus loot to the acolytes we've already caught? That was a question from Matthew in the chat there. No, we don't really have a way to do that and know whether you had the Pocket Watch on or off. So it'll just be going forward. So next week, when the update comes, if you have completed the frozen alcove and you get that buff, it will not only protect you from acolyte pillages, but you'll get the bonus loot. But that's just going forward. +1 time split rune, to clarify, it is on the drop table of bonus loot you could get from the acolyte if you have that buff, but it is far from guaranteed. That is the rarest drop. Actually, I think there's 3 items that are tied for rarest. The time split rune. I don't know if the ultimate charm was that rare, actually. I was thinking ultimate charm. There's one other little surprise item in there. That's also rather rare. As Brian points out, how often do you get the 500 calcified rift mist from the monstrous Black Widow? Yeah, I think that's a fairly rare drop. I think the time split rune may even be a little more rare than that is from the monstrous Black Widow. When does the frozen alcove update come? There's a question from the chat. As I said, next week, probably Wednesday is the most likely day, unless we run into some sort of unforeseen challenge next week when we kind of play through everything one last time. Hopefully there's nothing broken or nothing comes up in the meantime. Ryan asks, how rare? Less than 1%? I believe it's under 1%, yeah. But there are other things. I think there's clockwork cogs on the drop table. Let me open it up, actually. Let me go look at the drop table. Spreadsheets. Bristol Woods Rift spreadsheet. Let's see. And Acolyte drops. Yeah, there's quite a variety of loot. It ranges quite a bit in value. Like I said, I think Rift Curd is sort of the booby prize you could get there. There's 30 Rift Curd is on the drop table. Calcified Rift Mist, Rift Vacuum trinkets, Super Rift Vacuum charms, that is to say, not trinkets, essences, Rift Luck charms, Anti-Skelly charms, Rift Ultimate Power, Luck, Lucky Power, Tiny Sprockets, Magic Essence, Magical String, Rift Rumble Cheese, Quantum Quartz, Portal Scramblers, Clockwork Cogs, Ultimate Charms, Temporal Fusion Charm, and a Time Split Rune is the rarest drop. Actually, no, we got a four-way tie. There's a four-way tie for rarest drop on that table, but we'll won't spoil everything. We'll let hunters kind of explore and see what they can pry from the Acolyte's icy grip. Is there a plank run page? No. However, will be a journal theme. We're adding a journal theme in the update as well. There'll be 3 scraps to find in the Bristol Woods Rift to get the collectible journal theme, and I won't spoil where those scraps will be found, but they'll be spread throughout the Rift Acolyte Tower. More uses for Calcified Rift Mist. That is interesting maybe going forward in other rifts, but they're primarily have the same uses they have, but no new uses in this release. Temporal Fusion Charm. Yes, the Temporal Fusion Charm is on that drop table, and I believe you can also get it in mysterious boxes as well, but it may need to be a silver box before you start to see that item. Relic Hunter maps new season? Question in the chat from Squeepo? Not quite sure how to say that. That's a nice segue, because that is the second announcement that I wanted to make, is just give hunters a little bit of a heads up that the next season of the Relic Hunter, which I believe is season 5, I think, is sort of on our radar now. We haven't really finalized a plan or even sort of given the release the go-ahead, but it's something that we've been discussing, so it's probably going to be arriving in the not too distant future. So that's a little bit of a heads up if you have not found that limited edition trap from Season 4, that you may want to go and do some maps and get that trap if you're interested in having it, because once it's gone, it's gone. But I don't think it will be in July at all. I don't see the new season starting in July. So you have at least a month, but this is a little bit of an informal announcement, help get the word out. If you have friends that are looking for that limited edition trap, it's time to go and see if you can find it. It's Time Split, actually. Okay, sorry. What did I call it? I think the name changed during development. I might have an old name in the spreadsheet here that I was looking at. Let me see. Actually, I closed the spreadsheet. Let's see what I had it called. What I called it in the spreadsheet here. Temporal Fusion Charm. Yeah, that was the old name for the charm. So a little trivia. The Time Split Charm used to be called the Temporal Fusion Charm. Question in the chat there. Any planned uses for the train items, the copper beads? Or copper bad was a typo here, but copper bead, I assume. No plans to sort of add any new uses for those items. Revisiting the train might be something we'd kind of like to do, but again, I don't know if we'll have time in the immediate future, or we'll be prioritizing overhauling the train area at all. Will we still lose sand when we catch the absolute Acolyte? Claire asks in the chat. Yes, you will. You'll still lose your sand. That is another update we're making, however, is the Acolyte Chamber will appear a little sooner. So right now, I think you need about 70 sand before you start to see the Acolyte Chamber with any sort of regularity. We're lowering that to around 50 or 40 mark, so it'll start to appear a little bit more often with 40, or if you get lucky, it'll show up with even just 20 or 30 sand. You might just start to see it at least more than you do now, and that'll give hunters the option of choosing when they want to go in if you feel like you've had to over-prepare too much. And it'll be sort of up to your strategic interest to try to balance just the right amount of sand to go into the chamber with. That's actually a cooler name, says Dave, the Temporal Fusion Charms. I think because we were using the word temporal a lot. Like there's the temporal turbine, so we ended up going with time split. And it kind of made thematic sense with the Acolyte hiding in its chamber, just out of phase with time. Then the Obelisk is sort of splitting time into two different parallel threads. So we went with the term time split. Wines for Ronza. When is Ronza coming? No idea. No updates there. Suggestion to update Clawshot City. Hasn't been on our radar, at least in the immediate future, but would like to revisit the law areas at some point. Could there be an affordable Super Brie cheese for Hero or above? Now that's something we've been kind of trying to do with new areas going forward, is adding more types of cheese that are available in the marketplace to sort of hopefully create two different markets, if you will, for Super Brie and others. So the ancient string cheese, for example, or glowing Gruyere, as you sort of level up, you might start to use Super Brie a little less than you would at lower levels to hopefully make it so that the high levels who have access to earn a lot of gold are not as much anyway in the market for Super Brie, and then lower levels are more in the market for Super Brie, and that kind of helps move those two price points to two different tiers of hunters. That makes sense. Any new cheese for King's Calibrator? It's something we kind of look at with every release. It's on the checklist we have while we're testing a release, is to review all existing content and see if we want to update old stuff to accommodate the new content. We typically wait for areas to be a little bit older before we start adding the cheese that you use there to the calibrator. So no immediate plans right now. But as more areas come out, we'll probably start reviewing the calibrator as well as the King's Arms. That's sort of on the same checklist. Squippo asks, are Gilded Scrolls coming back? I believe, don't quote me on this, but I would think they would come back with the launch of Relic Hunter Season 5, because if I recall correctly, Gilded maps arrived at the start of last season, so I think that's something we're going to continue to do to sort of celebrate the start of a new Relic Hunter season, is be able to have Gilded maps for a week or two after the season changes. Will we ever make friends with mice? Asked Oscar. I don't think so. I guess they're the eternal enemy. Clockshot City was a comment in the chat there too. I like that play on words. And why did you make a magic string cheese option on Ancient Potions? Well, I mean, like I said, it's not perfectly segregated. There's, of course, Super Brie and Magic Essence is going to kind of play a role in a lot of things going forward, but other elements come in that also become important as well to sort of, you know, in a subtle way, create different resources for different tiers of hunters. And Brian says, waiting for rainbow maps. I think those would return with a King's Giveaway. The rainbow maps would arrive when we do a King's Giveaway. How do you gain Gilded Scrolls? Asked Marcus. They were purchased with cash, or you can trade them on the marketplace as well. So you could buy them with gold or with real-world money. But they have the golden shield in them as well, so it's kind of a fun way for one person to buy a scroll and then be able to share Super Brie and the golden shield and all those sort of premium items with friends. It's kind of neat because everybody gets a gilded chest, and when you pop open the gilded chest, you get a golden shield. So you can kind of buy a golden shield for your friends using the Gilded Scrolls, either with money or with gold. DS Noodle Lover asks, are you going to add Rift-based assignments to the Crystal Library? Probably not. We haven't really prioritized updating the Crystal Library. It's sort of mixed mixed reviews on the Crystal Library. I don't think it's not even on the list of things that we revisit when we add a new area. We've sort of decided not to add new assignments to the library, unless maybe one day we come and we refresh the whole area. But again, no plans to do that. From a 30,000-foot view, what is your plan for the next major release? Well, we have teased that in previous Feedback Fridays as Machu Picchu, which is sort of a mountainous themed area where you're reaching up into the sky. There'll be Shadow and Arcane mice there, as well as Draconic. And so one of the major rewards for Machu Picchu will be a new best-in-game Draconic trap. That's coming along. I don't really have too much to share. Probably next Feedback Friday after Bristol Woods Rift treasure maps have come out, then we'll start to focus on Machu Picchu a little bit more. But the artwork's coming along nicely. We're getting close to having all the mice complete. I think we nailed down sort of how we want the area to work. We finished prototyping it, and we're ready to start actually coding Machu Picchu. Up until now, we've just been playing with little prototypes of the area, but haven't written any sort of permanent code for the game. Just someone else asking about Rainbow Map Scrolls. They will return with a King's Giveaway, but don't have any news to share on when the next King's Giveaway may be. Dave has a comment about, or Dave Dexter, I guess I should differentiate between me and someone in the chat there, has a comment about Super Brie being too expensive and it deters new players who require Super Brie to get past the easier areas. Well, I think in most areas, pretty well almost everywhere, it's optional. Super Brie helps you go through things a little bit quicker, but by no means do you have to absolutely 100% use it, especially in lower level areas. We do add other things to the game as well to kind of speed up some of the early game areas, things like events giving away kind of slightly overpowered traps, especially if you're in that early mid-game phase. If you're going through like Tribal Isles or something like that, and you get a really powerful tactical, physical, or hydro trap, and that sort of helps you save a lot of your gold because the event traps are often free, and that kind of helps speed you through those early areas a little bit quicker. So we do it in other ways without directly just being about using Super Brie to go through early areas a little quicker. John suggests skins that change trap type again. That was neat with the Isle Idle trap, and it was kind of a unique situation there because you need 3 different traps in that area, so it kind of made thematic sense. So it's kind of cool to see positive feedback about that. One idea we are experimenting with Machu Picchu is a trap skin with a slightly special effect. Now, kind of don't want to go overboard with that because I think trap skin should continue to be very cosmetic. Otherwise, you don't get to choose which trap skin you want to arm because there'll be, well, this one's the best because it has a special effect. But it's something we're going to kind of maybe experiment. We're kicking around the idea for the next, for Machu Picchu. And I think that trap probably wouldn't have too many skins because it would have this extra ability that comes in the version of a skin. But we're still playing around with that. We're going to play test it a little bit, see how it feels. Might be interesting to see what hunters think about that. Question from Marcus. Is Machu Picchu going to be an Archduke area? No, it's going to be a Grand Duke area. And the idea being it comes after the Labyrinth, so you'll have to do some completion in the Labyrinth to unlock Machu Picchu. The Labyrinth is Duke / Duchess, and Machu Picchu will be Grand Duke / Grand Duchess, and that'll be the stepping stone to the first Archduke area, where we want to include more Draconic in the Archduke area as well. So Machu Picchu will have a little bit of Draconic. It will reward a new best in game Draconic, and that'll sort of set the stage and get everybody ready for the first Archduke area, where Draconic will play a bit of a larger role. Again, Dave asks in the chat about purely Super Brie plus breeds. Well, certainly there's a few of those, and they have good loot drops, and again, to kind of speed things up. But it is a very optional goal, collecting all the mice, and I think it's something where you can come back later. There's certainly nothing holding you back from moving on in the game if you don't capture, 5 or 6 mice throughout Nania or something like that. So you can kind of wait till you're a little higher level, you have lots of gold, you can buy your Super Brie off the marketplace and then try to go and complete your mouse collection that way. But we try to avoid creating hard barriers where you either need to spend money to progress or you need to have friends to progress is something we don't really find fun. So we try to avoid that. It's not something we try to add to the game at all. And Brian's comment in the chat that will Mosu Pichu have a better shadow or arcane trap? I don't believe so. I don't think there'll be any shadow or arcane traps to earn there, just a draconic one. So rest assured, the Zocor will still be the best traps for going forward there. And in a way, like Mosu Pichu wasn't quite as big and grand as the Labyrinth was, so the amount of time that it takes to complete the Labyrinth is, why you get such a powerful trap. Or the ability to get a powerful trap from there. Whereas Mosu Pichu is going to be a little smaller scale. It's not going to be as vast of an area. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit of a stepping stone to the Archduke area, kind of fill out at another Grand Duke location in that storyline of progression, and provide an opportunity for everyone to earn a new powerful draconic trap so that they'll be able to put it to good use when they get to the Archduke area. Yeah, and Marcus comment in the chat there about maybe traps and bases that need Magic Essence or Stale Super Brie, the ones that exist in the game. But I think those ones are pretty low requirement of how much Magic Essence or Stale Super Brie you would need for, say, the Rhino bot. And there's other means to go about getting that. Runic Cheese stales into Stale Super Brie. And in your daily loyalty chest in day 5, you get free Super Brie. So there's definitely ways to go about it without spending gold or cash for those little tiny goals of building a trap that needs a little bit of it. Any news about the iOS widget, asks Denny in the chat. We're getting just about ready to release the iOS widget, as well as a improvement to the horn notification where you can pull down on the tray and there's a horn button there. So on your phone, when you get a little notification on iOS, it appears at the top, and there's this little, little spot to pull it down to expand the notification. If you pull it down, there'll be a hunter's horn. You can tap the hunter's horn, and that tells you what you caught in the notification without launching the app. Now, of course, if you're in an area with a heads-up display, you'll probably still want to open the app to see where you are, or you may have a pretty good idea. Like, say you're in the Bristol Woods Rift and you just entered a chamber, and I've been playing around with it, kind of testing it, and I found that I'll be on the train or something, maybe reading an article, and I'll just quickly sound the horn that way, and then when I get home I kind of see like, okay, the room's almost looted, and have a rough idea of when I need to open the app again. Yeah, Brian, another little tip there, you can catch aged mice who drop Stale Super Brie. And in the chat, just so no confusion, you can't do that from the iOS app right now. The sound the horn from notification, that's something we're adding. We're currently kind of testing it out. I haven't installed sort of a beta version of the app on my phone that I've been testing out. And the widget. Do I have the widget ready to go here? Uh-oh. Yeah, actually, yeah, beta version, the widget's not working. I was going to show it to you, but it's not loading. Any special events coming up? Nothing in the immediate future. The next thing will be next week with Bristol Woods Rift treasure maps, as well as the various small updates to the Bristol Woods Rift that we kind of went over in previous Feedback Fridays. Did a quick little summary at the start as well. And of course there'll be a news post outlining sort of all the new things. There's 2 new chambers to find as well, and the Bristol Woods Rift will be arriving next week. One called the Lucky Tower and the other one called the Hidden Treasury. And those will be sort of rare finds while you go through the tower, just to kind of, spice things up, add a little bit more variety. We've made the Gearworks, or the Cogworks. I always forget what it's called. I think Cogworks. No, is it Gearworks? Somebody in the chat, I'm sure, will correct me. We've lowered the encounter rate of those chambers a little bit to accommodate 2 new sort of rare chambers. You can encounter them multiple times per run. They're not like the other special chambers where you can only do them once. They're just like going through an ancient lab or a runic laboratory. You just keep encountering them. They're just kind of rare to show up. So when they show up, it's a nice little surprise. And they have this massive loot bar of 99 loot in the room to collect. Gearworks, thank you. Draco. Lucky Tower and the Hidden Treasury. Somebody asked to repeat that are the 2 new chambers that will be added along in the treasure map update. We have Rift Wealth Charm. Well, spoiler alert, there will be one added to the game rather soon in the next update. I'll let you speculate where you might find the new Rift Wealth Charm. KDM asks, not 100. Actually, there is a little interface problem where the number 100 wouldn't fit on the HUD. And rather than repaint the whole HUD to get it to fit or do something weird like change the font size, that didn't look very good either. It wasn't that big of an adjustment just to make it 99 instead of 100. So that was a little compromise we made during development. But originally I did want it to be 100 just for the impact of, hey, 3 digits. But so close. It's 99. Yeah, no news to share about Ronza either, for those who are frothing at the mouth curious. We're going to sign up to beta test the app. Don't really have any sign-ups going at the moment, but I have a small group, and we mostly, I don't know how popular of a term this is, but in software is dog food, but we dog food test it quite a bit as well, where we'll be using the beta version of the app for a week or 2 before it comes out to kind of experience it as well. I think the expression gave rise for a dog food company where they would feed the dog food to their own dogs to see if the dogs like them. That's the term dog food. I don't know. It's weird expressions, weird expressions. And can't think of a better name. It's a nice name in the chat. It says, I think you revealed the location of Rift Wealth Charms in your last Feedback Friday. You're probably correct. So that information is probably floating around there, and it hasn't changed. So, any thoughts on Rift Attraction Charm? It's a neat idea to maybe add at some point. We do have some other Rift Charms sort of in the mix where in the not too distant future, some will be added next week in the treasure map update. And we have ideas for more to come in probably the following update that's going to follow the treasure maps. All right, on that note, at the 30-minute mark, I think we'll wrap things up here. Thanks for joining me, Hunters, on this holiday weekend edition of Feedback Friday. The questions, and thanks for your questions, your feedback. And as I said at the beginning here, 2 little announcements that I wanted to get out were next week, the Bristol Woods Rift treasure map update, which includes various tweaks and changes to the Bristol Woods Rift based on feedback from hunters. It's going to include that as well. So you'll get treasure maps. There'll be a new, the Frozen Alcove is going to be overhauled. The Acolyte Chamber is going to appear sooner. There is 2 new rare chambers defined. And I think that's everything. The news post will go over that. That's coming next week, unless something unforeseen consequence happens between now and then. And secondly, we are starting to design just a little bit of Relic Hunter Season 5. I don't think it's going to be within a month's time frame at all or anything like that, but a little bit of a heads up if you are interested in collecting that limited edition trap, help get the word out. If you have friends who are looking who don't have that trap, it's maybe time to set that as one of your short-term goals, because Relic Hunter Season 5 won't be in the too distant future. No trivia question, or the quar as we call it. Well, let's see. Let's see what we can cook up. I did not prepare anything, no. Let me go ask Larry for something. He kind of played a trick on everyone with the previous trivia. Instead of ancient string potion, was handing out just regular ancient potion, and I thought that wasn't too nice of Larry. Today is the 30th day of the 6th month. Now I just have to think of a trivia question, I guess. It's always a challenge. Half the time I don't know the answer. Larry shares some temporal fusion charms. Something tells me Larry doesn't have too many of those to share. Or any, because that's not what they're called. Alright, Larry has a link. So now trivia question. Let's see here. What do we have? What do we have? Do. Yes, Larry does have almost 200,000 temporal turbine traps. I don't know where he got those. He's a resourceful hunter. All right, how about, let's say, how much gold is in a regular Rift Walker treasure chest? Not the rare version, just the regular version. That is this week's trivia question. It's not 48. It's a little bit more than 48. That would be a disappointing treasure chest with 48 gold. 100,000 is too high. 90,000 is too high. 42 is a little too low. 45,000 also too low. 80,000 getting warm. Getting warm. 50,000 too low. 80, 60 floating around it. There we go. Nats. Nats has 70,000. I believe was the first person I saw anyway. And Brian right afterwards as well with 70k gold. 70k is correct. That might be about how long it takes to check the wiki. And the numbers are still flying in through the chat. Do we get ancient potions? No, this week Larry did pick out something Rift themed. Thanks for the temporal fusion charm. Let's hope it wasn't one of those non-existent items. Rift luck charms. Rift luck charms for all. I'll see if I can get that on the screen as well. I think I have that much set up. Here we go. See if I can put that up on screen. So the answer was 70. And the reward, if I can paste that in, looks kind of weird. Let's hope that works. There we go. Whoa. So if you're watching this recorded, the link is below for your typing experience. Hmm, 15 Rift luck charms, that is the equivalent of 15 tiny sprockets at the Bristol Woods Rift. And they are handy when you're in a chamber where you don't necessarily want to use a vacuum charm to boost the loot drops, but you want to boost your catch rate. Alright, so we'll wrap things up now that with an impromptu edition of Quar, the question answer reward. I had the answer correct this time, apparently, so that's always a good way to end things when I have the answer correct and Larry hands out something that makes a little bit more sense than Ancient Potions like he did last time. What a jokester. So thanks for joining me, Hunters. We'll see you next week, either Jacob or myself. Have a good weekend, or if you're watching this recorded, have a good day. The rest of your day is good. Happy hunting.